The silence of space is broken only by the hum of the command center, a distant and unfeeling rhythm that has always been the backdrop of Earth's operations, far from the reach of most human eyes in the deep vastness of space. There are no enemies, no threats, nothing but the quiet stars and planets that humanity has long studied, but never fully explored until now. A strange signal breaks through the usual noise, an encrypted transmission of unknown origin, faint and weak, but undeniable. The message pulses like a heartbeat, an emergency call so distant it seems almost impossible to decipher at first glance. Back on Earth, the signal is quickly picked up by a team of high-level analysts at the Deep Space Communications Center. They initially dismiss it as a glitch, perhaps an anomaly caused by the natural chaos of space, but as they begin to decode the message, their doubts fade, and unease settles in. The transmission carries an urgent plea for help from a star system on the very edge of known space, a place where no human ships have ever ventured before. The distress message is both frantic and direct. It speaks of an unstoppable enemy, an alien force beyond comprehension that has pushed a previously unknown civilization to the brink of extinction. Commander Julia Ferris oversees the Deep Space Division of Earth Command, a no-nonsense leader who has faced countless threats, but never one from such a distant and mysterious source. The message is unlike any they've received before. It is not a call from an established ally or known race of extraterrestrials. Instead, it is from a species humanity has never encountered, a group that appears to be on the verge of collapse. Their message is clear: we need help, or we die. The unknown civilization is on the verge of annihilation by a force that seems both ancient and brutal. The urgency of the situation cannot be ignored, and Ferris makes the call to mobilize Earth's most powerful weapon, the Leviathan Fleet, a collection of Earth's finest ships and brightest minds. This fleet has been designed for the unthinkable, for battles far beyond human borders, where only the strongest can survive. The Leviathan ships are equipped with the latest in military technology, massive warships capable of decimating entire fleets, and smaller, agile vessels that can outmaneuver anything in their path. But despite their advanced capabilities, these ships have never been tested against an enemy like the one described in the transmission. Captain Zara Hale is chosen to lead the fleet. Hale is a seasoned veteran with a reputation for completing missions, no matter the cost. She is calm under pressure, a master strategist, and a leader who has earned the respect of her crew. The decision to entrust her with the command of such a vital mission is not taken lightly, but Ferris has no doubt Hale will rise to the challenge. The captain's orders are clear: investigate the source of the signal, determine the nature of the enemy, and if necessary, protect Earth from whatever threat lies beyond the stars. The fleet's engines roar to life as the ships make their way into deep space, with the entire crew aware that they are about to venture into uncharted territory. The unknowns are staggering. No one knows what to expect, but one thing is certain: they are headed toward the edge of the galaxy to answer a call for help that could change everything. The fate of an alien world may rest in their hands, and the truth of what lies ahead remains shrouded in mystery. As the Leviathan fleet enters hyperspace, the crew feels the weight of their mission pressing down on them. Like 1,000 tons of steel, the vastness of the journey seems to stretch on endlessly. Outside the observation windows, only the swirling blue of the hyperspace tunnel provides any sense of movement. It's a long and quiet trip, but the tension in the air is palpable. Each member of the crew knows they are heading into the unknown, the uncertainty gnawing at the edges of their resolve. Captain Zara Hale stands at the helm of her flagship, the Eagle's Fury, a colossal warship that embodies the might of humanity's most advanced technologies. Its sleek surface glows softly with a hum of power. Beneath her steady hand, Hale guides the ship through the cold expanse of space, her eyes focused on the data streaming across the console in front of her. Though she is calm outwardly, inside she feels a storm of thoughts swirling as she processes the gravity of their mission. What awaits them in the unknown system is unclear, but she has seen enough in her years as a commander to know that this could be a battle unlike any they have faced before. The fleet itself is a marvel of human ingenuity, composed of several large capital ships and hundreds of smaller agile craft, Each vessel bristles with advanced weaponry and defensive systems designed to give them an edge in combat. But even with the unparalleled power at their disposal, Hale knows that no amount of firepower guarantees victory. When facing the unknown, the members of her crew are the best humanity has to offer, but they too are walking into an uncertain storm, and their greatest weapon may not be their technology, but their ability to adapt and think on their feet. On board the Fury, the crew goes about their duties with a quiet efficiency. No one speaks about the fear or the uncertainty, because it is something that cannot be allowed to show in moments like these. They are soldiers first and foremost, trained to execute orders and protect humanity at all costs. The officers work through detailed simulations, running through every possible scenario they might encounter. The engineers calibrate systems, ensuring that every component is in perfect working order, and the tactical teams prepare for every eventuality as they get closer to their destination. Lieutenant Kira Sun, a tactical officer on the Fury, runs through the latest calculations on the alien distress signal. She frowns as the numbers don't quite add up. The source of the transmission seems to be emanating from a planet that should be impossible to reach from the coordinates they were given. There are no known paths through the region. It is a place in deep space, so far removed from the main galactic highways that it would be nearly impossible to navigate safely. There are no records of any species inhabiting the system. The planet is not even registered on most star charts, and yet the signal persists, an anomaly that no one can fully explain. As Hale contemplates the data, she knows that time is of the essence. They have no way of knowing what will happen once they arrive, but the urgency of the message demands that they act quickly. They have to assume that any delay could be disastrous for the aliens who called for help, or worse, they could be walking into a trap designed to lure Earth's most powerful fleet into a vulnerable position. The fleet exits hyperspace as the blue tunnel of light fades and the stars snap back into focus. Ahead of them lies the target system, a quiet, desolate corner of space where only the distant glow of a dying sun offers any sign of life. The alien planet is still a dot on the horizon, but the crew of the Leviathan fleet feels the weight of their journey ahead. As they draw closer to their objective, the unknown is waiting, and the only thing they can rely on now is their training and their determination to see the mission through to the end. The stakes could not be higher. The future of an entire civilization hangs in the balance, and in the cold vastness of space, the humans are about to face something far beyond their wildest expectations. The Leviathan fleet arrives in the alien system, its ships gliding silently through the void. The planet they are here to help or protect remains a pale blue dot against the black backdrop of space. Yet the mystery of what awaits them intensifies with each passing moment as they close in. Despite all their technology, despite the vast power at their disposal, the humans feel a creeping sense of vulnerability. This system is like nothing they've encountered before, quiet, desolate, and utterly foreign. Captain Zara Hale stands at the helm of the Eagle's Fury, her eyes trained on the screen, watching as the planet grows larger with each passing minute. She has led her crew through countless dangers, but nothing has felt this uncertain. The alien message, that desperate call for help, lingers in her mind. There's an urgency to it that she cannot ignore. What could bring a species to the brink of extinction in such a remote corner of the galaxy? The question gnaws at her. On the lower decks, her crew is preparing for the unknown. Lieutenant Kira Sun continues to analyze the data. There are strange fluctuations in the planet's atmosphere, unusual emissions from the surface that don't match any known signatures. The planet appears to be alive with activity, but not the kind that makes sense to the human eye. It's as if something has disrupted the natural order of things, though what that is remains a mystery. No human colony has ever been in this part of space, and no sensors can tell them what awaits. As the fleet enters the planet's orbit, a soft hum fills the command deck, a signal that they are being hailed, an alien transmission. The crew's tense silence deepens as Hale gives the order to receive the communication. The voice that answers is soft, almost ethereal, yet carries a weight of desperation. "We are the Trath," the voice says, and it seems to echo through the room. "We did not expect you to come, but you are our last hope." The screen flickers, and an image of an alien appears. Tall and slender, the Trath are unlike any species humanity has encountered. Their skin is a pale green, translucent in places, revealing veins of silvery fluid that seem to pulse with life. Their large eyes, dark and deep, convey a wisdom that stretches far beyond their years. There is something regal in their posture, yet a sense of fragility in their gaze. These are a people who have suffered, who have seen their civilization falter and their world teeter on the brink of collapse. Captain Hale studies the alien carefully. There's a profound sadness in the way the Trath looks at them, as if they have already come to terms with their inevitable end. Yet there is also a spark of something else, a flicker of hope, however faint, that humanity may offer the solution they so desperately need. The Trath explain that their planet is being ravaged by a force they cannot understand, an alien warlord who has enslaved countless civilizations, including theirs. This warlord's horde, as they call it, is unlike any enemy the Trath have faced. They are relentless, attacking without mercy, destroying everything in their path. Despite the advanced technology of the Trath, they have been powerless to stop the warlord. Their cities are crumbling, their defenses failing. The warlord's horde has already begun to encircle their last stronghold, a sprawling city on the surface, and their allies have all but vanished into the stars, leaving them with little hope. Captain Hale feels a surge of determination. She cannot, in good conscience, turn away. The message had been a cry for help, and the Trath had reached out to humanity not in a spirit of mere survival, but in a plea for liberation. Hale realizes that this mission, once seen only as a tactical deployment, has become something far more significant. The Trath need them, not just to fight their enemy, but to restore a glimmer of hope to a people who have lost everything. "We will help you," Hale says, her voice steady but filled with an unmistakable resolve. "We'll stop the warlord and his horde. You are not alone in this fight." The Trath look at her with eyes filled with a mix of relief and gratitude, but there is also a deep sense of disbelief. It has been so long since anyone offered them help, so long since they had a reason to believe they could win. Captain Hale understands that this mission will not be easy, and she knows that whatever comes next will test them all in ways they cannot yet imagine. But as the screen fades, the silence that follows feels different. A shared understanding between two very different species that they are now bound by a single cause, one that could either bring them all together or shatter everything they know. The fleet prepares for its next steps. The battle ahead will be fierce, but they will not face it alone. And for the first time since they left Earth, the crew of the Leviathan fleet feels a sense of purpose that transcends the mission itself. It is a purpose that will either save an entire world or see it lost to the shadows of war. The truth of the warlord's horde is a bitter pill for Captain Hale and her crew to swallow. The Trath, despite their advanced technologies, have been unable to stop the onslaught of the horde, a coalition of ruthless warlords and their followers who scour the galaxy for resources and power. The Trath explain that the warlords' forces are unlike any conventional army they faced, fueled by a singular, brutal desire for conquest. They have no mercy, no negotiation, and no hesitation. The warlord, a tyrant whose name is feared across countless star systems, has built an empire on the bones of destroyed worlds, enslaving the survivors to serve his insatiable thirst for power. Hale stands in the command center of the Eagle's Fury, her gaze fixed on the holo display before her. The fleet is anchored in the orbit of the alien world, and the Trath have shared every bit of intelligence they can gather. There are no allies left for the Trath, only the ravages of war. The warlord's horde has already decimated several key cities, and now their forces are gathering for a final assault on the Trath's last stronghold, a city known as Elysium. The message the Trath sent had been more than a simple cry for help. It was a beacon of desperation, a last-ditch effort to save everything they hold dear. Hale watches the Trath leaders on the holo display, their faces tired, their eyes hollow from years of suffering. They have no more tricks up their sleeves, no more weapons to use. They are counting on the humans. The enormity of the task weighs heavily on Hale's shoulders. She's been in command of the Leviathan fleet for years, but this is something different. This isn't just another military engagement. This is the salvation of a civilization. The question lingers in the air. How do you defeat an enemy that does not know the meaning of mercy? Lieutenant Kira Sun, Hale's chief tactical officer, steps forward to offer an analysis. Her brow is furrowed as she studies the data coming in from the Trath, her fingers tapping the console as she rapidly processes information. We can't just meet them head-on. The warlord's horde is overwhelming. Our firepower will count for little if we face them directly in a battle for the surface. Hale nods in agreement. The warlord's horde is vast, their forces seemingly endless. There's no way the Leviathan fleet could take them on directly without risking total destruction. But Hale's mind races. There has to be a way to strike back. There's always a way. What if we use their aggression against them? She asks, her voice calm but sharp with focus. Sun looks at Hale, understanding the meaning immediately. A decoy tactic, she says. We bait them into a trap. If we can draw their forces into the open, we can use our superior maneuverability and firepower to strike decisively. Hale smiles slightly, the plan beginning to take shape. Exactly. The warlord's forces have no concept of subtlety. We'll give them a target, one they can't resist. But instead of a simple target, we'll set up a series of traps and ambushes, using our smaller vessels and advanced technology to outmaneuver them. We'll make them believe they have the advantage, then turn the tide when they least expect it. The crew begins working quickly, with Sun coordinating the fleet's tactical operations, while other officers begin preparing the specialized decoys. Drones and advanced cloaking technology designed to mimic the Trath's key facilities. The deception will need to be perfect. If even a single error is made, the warlord's horde will overwhelm them. Meanwhile, Hale reaches out to the Trath leaders again, discussing the strategy with them. They are hesitant at first, their people so accustomed to defeat that they find it hard to trust in a plan that asks them to take such a significant risk. But Hale's resolve is unwavering, and slowly, the Trath begin to understand. They must take this chance. It is their only chance. With the plan set in motion, the Leviathan fleet prepares for one of the most daring military operations in history. The moment of truth draws near as the warlord's horde edges closer to the Trath stronghold. The countdown begins, the ships moving into position, cloaked and hidden, ready to strike. Captain Hale stands in the command center, her hands folded behind her back, as she gazes out at the stars. Her mind is sharp, focused on the coming battle. She knows that this fight will not just determine the fate of the Trath, but the fate of everything they have built. If they succeed, they will show the galaxy that humanity's strength is more than just firepower. It's in their ability to think, to adapt, and to fight not just for survival, but for something greater. The battle for Elysium is about to begin. The moment arrives with a thunderous silence that blankets the Leviathan fleet as it positions itself within the shadows of the distant moon, out of sight from the warlord's approaching forces. The Trath stronghold of Elysium, a sprawling city perched on the edge of a vast desert, lies just below them, its skyline barely visible against the dying sun. It is the last beacon of hope for the Trath, and they are determined not to let it fall without a fight. Captain Hale stands at the helm of the Eagle's Fury, her mind sharp as ever as she watches the darkened planet on the view screen. The fleet is ready. Every ship has been equipped with cloaking technology, masking their true numbers and strength. They're not here to charge into battle. They're here to manipulate their enemy's pride, to make them believe they have the upper hand. Lieutenant Kira Sun stands beside Hale, her eyes scanning the data feeds. The warlord's fleet is moving into position, Captain. They've taken the bait. They're heading straight for the decoy signal we sent out from the Trath communications arrays. They'll be in firing range in 15 minutes. Hale nods. The Horde's forces are formidable in number, but they lack the discipline and strategic thinking that humanity excels at. The warlord's soldiers have never fought with a true sense of coordination. They rush in, driven by blind conquest and an overwhelming thirst for power. They think they've won before the battle even begins. Prepare the fleet, hail orders. Once they're in range, we'll move out. As the minutes tick by, the tension on the bridge rises. It's quiet, too quiet, save for the soft hum of the ship's engines and the steady pulse of data being processed in the background. The anticipation is palpable as every officer waits for the signal that will turn the tide of this war. The enemy is coming, and the trap is set. The only thing left is to spring it. The first wave of the warlord's fleet emerges from the shadows, a sea of brutal ships that seem more like floating fortresses than war vessels. The soundless vacuum of space offers no clue as to their true size, but from the data streaming in, it's clear they're massive. Hundreds of ships, many of them larger than the human vessels, bristle with weaponry and shields, their forms jagged and sharp. The Horde's brutality is evident in their designs. Everything about them is built to intimidate. "They're taking the bait, Captain," Sun says, her voice calm but tinged with excitement. "They're coming in hot. We have them." Hale watches as the enemy fleet grows closer, their massive ships charging toward the decoy signal, unaware of the hidden threat closing in around them. Her fingers twitch over the command panel, ready to give the order. And then, just as the warlord's ships lock onto the decoys, the trap is sprung. "Now," Hale orders, her voice cutting through the quiet like a whip. In an instant, the Leviathan fleet bursts from the shadows, emerging in full force with a blinding array of firepower. The Eagle's Fury leads the charge, flanked by the smaller, more agile ships that dart between the enemy's larger forms, firing lasers and torpedoes with precision. The first volley strikes true, tearing into the side of the warlord's lead ship, sending fragments of debris into the void. The Horde, caught completely off guard, reacts with chaos. "Captain, they're retreating to the far side of the planet," Sun reports. "The decoys worked. They're panicking." Hale's lips curl into a grim smile. The warlord's forces may have the numbers, but they're not prepared for the kind of strategy humanity brings to the table. The first wave is disorganized, and their ships scatter like leaves in a storm, desperate to regroup and retaliate. But it's too late. The Leviathan fleet, with its superior maneuverability, is already on the move, picking off stragglers and reinforcing their position around the enemy's flanks. "Bring the fighters in," Hale orders, watching the chaos unfold. "We need to isolate their commanders." As the enemy's lines break apart, the human fighters swoop in, dodging fire from the Horde ships, targeting their weak points with devastating precision. The warlord's Horde may be powerful in numbers, but their tactics are disjointed and erratic. They lack the unity that Earth's fleet possesses, the ability to function as a single cohesive force. The battle turns into a game of cat and mouse, the humans always one step ahead, making split-second decisions that outmaneuver the Horde's overwhelming but chaotic strength. The warlord's flagship, a massive, intimidating vessel, looms in the distance, still holding its ground. Hale knows that taking it down will not be easy, but it is the key to ending this conflict. The rest of the Horde ships may be disarrayed, but this ship is the heart of their operation, and without it, the warlord will be forced to retreat. "We target the flagship," Hale orders, her voice cold with determination. "Everything we've got." The Leviathan fleet zeroes in on the warlord's flagship, and the final phase of the battle begins. The outcome is no longer in question, but the fight is far from over. The humans, with their superior tactics, have proven that they can outthink the enemy. But now, they must face the warlord's ultimate weapon, his flagship, and the ferocity of his final stand. The battle is just beginning. The warlord's flagship, a monstrous ship adorned with jagged spires and armored plates, towers over the battlefield. Its dark form seems to absorb the light around it, a symbol of the tyranny it represents. The Leviathan fleet, having shattered the first wave of the Horde, now turns its full attention to the flagship. It is the heart of the warlord's strength, and Captain Hale knows that as long as it remains intact, the Horde will fight on with relentless fury. The Eagle's fury moves forward, flanked by its fellow capital ships. Hale's eyes flicker across the tactical display, tracking the movements of every vessel, every weapon in play. The fight has turned into something more than just a skirmish. It is a dance of death, each ship in the Leviathan fleet anticipating the moves of the enemy before they even happen. The warlord's ships may have superior numbers, but they are no match for the humans' discipline and coordination. Lieutenant Kira Sun stands beside Hale, her face illuminated by the holographic data streaming before her. "We've got a direct line to the flagship's weak spot," she reports, her voice steady. "The rear engines are exposed. If we can land a full strike there, we can cripple it." Hale nods, her gaze never leaving the screen. "Prepare all available weaponry. No mistakes. This has to be clean." The Eagle's fury surges forward, its engines roaring as it closes the distance to the warlord's ship. The enemy fleet, still in disarray from the earlier ambush, tries to regroup, but it's too late. The humans have already taken control of the battlefield, and the warlord's pride is about to cost him everything. "We'll need to keep their fighters off us while we strike," Sun says, her fingers flying over the console. "I'm ordering the fighters to engage." The smaller human vessels dart forward, their sleek forms cutting through the darkness like sharp blades, engaging the Horde's fighters in a vicious dogfight. The enemy ships swarm like locusts, but the human pilots are faster, more precise. They have been trained for this moment, trained to anticipate, to strike first, to leave no room for error. Hale watches the tactical screen, tracking the movements of her fleet as they close in on the flagship. The moment of truth is at hand. "Target the engines," she commands. "Fire on my mark." For a heartbeat, the battlefield seems to still. The Eagle's fury and its comrades position themselves carefully, calculating the trajectory of every shot. The warlord's flagship looms ahead, its weapons still firing in all directions, desperate to break through the human blockade. But it's too slow, too overconfident. It doesn't realize yet that its time has come. "Mark," Hale says. The Leviathan fleet unleashes a barrage of firepower, a deadly symphony of lasers and missiles. The first wave of fire strikes the warlord's flagship, but it's the second volley that makes the difference. A series of missiles hit their target, slamming into the rear engines with explosive force. The flagship shudders violently, its power core destabilizing as the hull begins to crack. The warlord's ship is not destroyed yet, but it is crippled, its ability to maneuver gone, its defenses in tatters. "We've got a breach in their main engine," Sun reports, her voice filled with a mix of relief and exhilaration. "They're disabled. They can't escape." Hale allows herself a brief moment of satisfaction, but she knows this battle isn't over yet. The warlord will not surrender so easily. As if on cue, a distorted voice crackles over the comms, guttural and full of venom. "You think you've won." The warlord snarls, his voice reverberating through the speakers. "This is only the beginning. You can't defeat me. My horde will destroy you all." The arrogance in the warlord's words is chilling, but Hale remains unfazed. "Your fleet is broken," she replies coldly. "You have nothing left. Surrender or die." There is a long pause, and then the warlord speaks again, his voice filled with a dangerous calm. "I will not go down without taking you with me." A sudden jolt shakes the Eagle's fury, and the screen flashes red with warning lights. The warlord's flagship, now a wounded beast, begins to power up its remaining weapons. It's trying to retaliate, launching a series of self-destruct charges in a last-ditch effort to take down the humans with it. "Brace for impact." Hale orders, her voice sharp and commanding. The crew scrambles to secure themselves as the ship rocks under the force of the warlord's desperate counterattack. The enemy flagship may be dying, but it will not go quietly into the void. Lock onto their remaining weapons, Hale commands, her mind racing. We'll end this now. With a final series of calculated strikes, the Eagle's Fury and its supporting ships focus their fire on the warlord's remaining weapons, knocking them out one by one. The self-destruct sequence begins to falter, its countdown interrupted by the overwhelming force of the human fleet. Finally, the warlord's flagship goes silent, its power drained, and its weapons disabled. The Horde's once proud vessel is now nothing more than a broken husk, floating in space like the remnants of an empire that was too arrogant to see its own downfall. "We've won," Sun says, her voice a mix of disbelief and triumph. But Hale knows that the battle is far from over. The Horde may be broken for now, but there is always more to fight for. The human fleet has struck a decisive blow, but the war is far from finished. For the Trath and humanity alike, this victory is just the beginning of a much larger struggle. And Hale, resolute as ever, is ready for whatever comes next. The warlord's flagship drifts, its engines silent, its weapons crippled. A deafening quiet hangs over the battlefield, broken only by the distant explosions as the remnants of the Horde's fleet scatter or disintegrate under the relentless assault of the Leviathan fleet. For a moment, the crews of the human ships allow themselves a brief respite, a collective exhale of relief. The battle has been won, the flagship destroyed, but the price of victory is clear. The warlord may have been defeated, but the war is far from over. Captain Hale stands on the bridge of the Eagle's Fury, her eyes scanning the remains of the battlefield. The eerie stillness is broken by a sudden, sharp beep, an alert on the tactical display. Hale's jaw tightens as she steps forward, narrowing her gaze at the screen. Something isn't right. "Lieutenant Sun, status report." Hale commands, her voice sharp. Sun is already at her console, rapidly processing the incoming data. Her expression turns grim as she looks up. "Captain, we've got a secondary fleet incoming. Fast. This doesn't look like a retreat." Hale's heart sinks as she watches the new fleet appear on the far edge of the system, rising out of the darkness like a nightmare made real. The ships are large, much larger than the Horde's standard vessels, and they seem to be coming from a nearby black hole, a dark, swirling mass of gravity and destruction. These ships are unlike any Hale has seen before. Their surfaces are smooth, with a dark metallic sheen that seems to ripple with the energy of the black hole behind them. And most chilling of all, the enemy ships are far more organized, far more disciplined than the ragtag fleet the humans had just defeated. "Where did they come from?" Hale mutters, almost to herself. "The warlord didn't command this fleet." Sun's fingers fly over her console, pulling up every bit of data she can gather. It appears this new fleet is connected to the warlord's Horde, but they don't match any known configuration in the archives. These ships, they're not just another wave. They're advanced, Captain. Highly advanced. The realization hits Hale like a punch to the gut. The warlord was only a figurehead. This wasn't just a band of marauders. They were part of a much larger and more terrifying force. And now, that force has arrived. The screen flashes again, this time with a transmission. It's a message from the lead ship of the new fleet, its voice low and menacing. "You have made a grave mistake," the voice says, distorted but filled with malice. "The warlord was only a pawn. His death was inevitable. What you face now is the true power of the Horde, and we do not fall as easily as he did." Hale feels a cold shiver run down her spine. She's dealt with warlords before, powerful leaders of vast empires, yes, but none of them had the resources to create a fleet like this. None of them had the discipline or technology to pose this kind of threat. This was something far worse. Sun looks at Hale, her face pale. "Captain, this fleet. It's not just about numbers. These ships, they've been engineered for war on an unprecedented scale. They're designed to obliterate, not conquer. And if they're here, then the warlord's death was just the beginning. Hale steels herself. She can't allow panic to take root. The Trath need their help. Humanity needs to show that this fight is worth every sacrifice, that they are the ones who will stand against the dark. They've already proven they can outthink their enemies, and now they must use every resource at their disposal to outfight them. Prepare for battle, Hale orders. We cannot afford another mistake. We hit them hard and fast. Sun, get me a tactical analysis on their fleet. We need to know everything we can about their weapons and capabilities. Sun nods quickly, her fingers tapping over the console as the data begins flooding in. The new fleet is unlike anything they've seen. Each ship is a fortress, heavily shielded and armed with weapons that could vaporize a capital ship in a single shot. The fleet moves in tight formation, clearly ready for a coordinated strike. We need to disable their flagship before they can launch an assault on Elysium, Sun says, her voice steady despite the urgency in the situation. Hale turns to the rest of her crew. All ships, prepare for a full-scale engagement. We strike first, with everything we've got. The Trath are counting on us. The fleet begins to position itself, each vessel preparing to unleash its full firepower. The enemy ships advance, their formidably advanced fleet edging closer with every passing moment. Hale can see the determination in the eyes of her crew. This fight isn't just about strategy anymore. It's a matter of survival. The battle is about to begin once again, but this time, the humans are not just fighting for one world. They are fighting for the very future of the galaxy. We won't lose, Hale mutters under her breath, though her voice betrays no doubt. This time, humanity will be the ones to shape the outcome. This time, they won't just defeat the warlord. They will erase the threat once and for all. The Leviathan fleet, against impossible odds, stands ready to face the true wrath of the Horde. The battle unfolds in a flurry of chaos, the Leviathan fleet now fully engaged against the new terrifying force that has emerged from the shadows. The enemy ships, far more advanced than anything the humans have faced, surge forward in tight formation. They move with an eerie precision, their weapons charging, ready to strike. The stars around them light up with the intensity of the fight, as ships clash in a spectacular display of fire and fury. But this time, the humans are not on the back foot. They have a plan. Captain Hale stands at the helm of the Eagle's Fury, her face set in steely determination. The fate of both the Trath and humanity rests on this moment. They've faced overwhelming odds before, but the force before them now is unlike anything they've seen. Every ship, every crew member must work together with perfect precision if they are to have any hope of winning. Lieutenant Sun, I need those numbers now, Hale calls out, her voice steady, commanding. Sun's fingers move with practiced speed across the console, processing the flood of data coming in from the battlefield. Their ships are heavily shielded, Captain. Standard weapons won't be enough to pierce their hulls. We'll need to target their power cores directly, but those are heavily guarded. Hale's mind races. Their tactics have always relied on exploiting weaknesses, but this enemy is built to prevent exactly that. They can't afford to waste any shot. Can we use their shields against them? She asks, her thoughts turning to the innovative strategies that have helped them prevail in the past. Sun pauses, a flash of realization crossing her face. Yes, Captain. We can overload their shields. If we hit them with concentrated fire at the right frequency, we can cause their shields to fail temporarily. That's when we strike. Good. Get the fleet into position, Hale orders, watching as her crew scrambles to execute her plan. The clock is ticking, and the enemy is closing in. The Leviathan fleet shifts, moving into a tight formation. The smaller, faster ships take the lead, weaving through the chaos of the battlefield, drawing the enemy's fire and drawing them into the perfect position. The larger capital ships, including the Eagle's Fury, move into place, their weapons primed, waiting for the moment to strike. Now, Hale commands, her eyes locked on the enemy flagship, the heart of this new fleet. The ship is massive, its dark hull almost absorbing the light from the nearby stars. A fortress of war, bristling with weapons and shields. But Hale has seen this before. The arrogance, the belief that strength alone will win the day. She knows better. It's never the biggest ship that wins. It's the one that strikes at the right moment. The Leviathan fleet unleashes its full power in a blistering volley. The enemy shields ripple, flashing with the intensity of the first barrage. The ships shudder under the impact, but the shields hold, just as they were designed to. But Hale's plan is working. The shields are overloading, growing unstable under the sustained fire. The key now is timing. "We're losing their shields, Captain," Sun announces, a note of urgency in her voice. "We've got a window." "Take the shot," Hale says, her voice resolute. In that moment, the Eagle's fury and the rest of the fleet unleash everything they have. Concentrated fire from all directions slams into the enemy flagship's exposed power core. The impact is devastating, the ship shuddering as if it's been struck by a cosmic sledgehammer. For a split second, the flagship's shields flicker, and then they fail completely. The Leviathan fleet's weapons pierce the hull, sending a cascade of explosions through the heart of the ship. The enemy flagship is crippled, its weapons disabled, its power core in critical failure. But the enemy is far from done. A final desperate command is issued over the comms. "Do not retreat." The distorted voice of the enemy leader screams, filled with rage. "Fight until the last ship falls." But it's too late. The core of the fleet has been destroyed. Without the flagship to coordinate them, the remaining ships of the Horde fall into disarray. The Leviathan fleet doesn't hesitate. Every human vessel takes advantage of the confusion, targeting the weaker ships and finishing them off one by one. The chaos is too much for the Horde to manage, and within minutes, what was once a massive and intimidating force is reduced to a handful of scattered, crippled ships. "We've done it," Sun says, her voice quiet with disbelief. Hale watches the battlefield, the firelight of the battle slowly fading as the last of the enemy ships fall. The Leviathan fleet has won, against all odds. The warlord is dead, his force is broken, and the new Horde has been decimated. But Hale knows that while this victory is immense, the true challenge lies ahead. The galaxy will never be the same. The Trath are not the only ones who will be affected by this conflict. The warlord's reign was just the beginning of something much bigger, a war for the future of all species. Hale exhales slowly, her voice calm but resolute as she addresses her crew. "We've shown them what humanity is capable of, and we will keep fighting for every world, every species that still believes in hope." As the Leviathan fleet prepares to return to Elysium, the stars above them twinkle, seemingly brighter than before. The battle may be over, but the war for peace has only just begun. And humanity, with its courage and ingenuity, will lead the charge into a new era.